Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center and contact center podcast, where we try to give you some actionable items to take back in your contact center, improve the overall quality, improve the agent experience, hopefully improve that customer experience as well. As you well know, my name is Tom Laird. I am the CEO here at Expivia Interaction Marketing and Auto QA. I have a very special guest. We've been working on this episode for really almost maybe a couple months now. To get Robbert and kind of his company onto the podcast to kind of talk about a lot of different AI aspects, right? So it's been really fun to see the different perspectives people have on AI as it relates to the contact center and to CX in general. These guys have done it in some really cool ways from the digital side, now moving to the voice side. So let's get into this. But before I do that, Robbert, why don't you if you can give a quick intro to the audience of you and talk about Deepdesk a little bit and kind of where you guys are at and what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Good morning. My name is Robbert. I'm a CEO and founder of Deepdesk. We started in 2019, so we're in the business for 5 years now. So we've basically seen the AI growing, especially in this market, which is now very known, especially with the chat GPTs launching beginning of this year. We've been in this space for some time now, and we're an Amsterdam-based company, so we're basically focusing on Europe. And since Europe has a bit more of the digital channels already, this is why we focused on these particular channels. And we launched. We're now 20 people running in a few larger contact centers, especially the larger enterprise in Western Europe. And this is basically insurance, banking, maybe telecom, these kind of companies with larger operations. And what we built is an agent assist helping the agents in the contact center, making their work and their life easier. One of the things that we really try to focus on is, and we call this thinking human, is building technology that is helpful to humans in general. And then I think we're an early player in terms of the AI and bringing that to the contact center. And then I think it is a hugely interesting space because there's a really an effort going on in contact centers, also in the customer experience in general. Making that connection to your customers is really important, and that's why we are trying to help with AI, and then especially with the large language models, which we will talk about as a huge opportunity for even more capabilities there.
Thank you. And guys, as we go on here, again, we're doing this as an AMA. So we're on TikTok, on LinkedIn. If you guys have any questions, please throw them out. And we'll try to get Robbert to give his thoughts on anything that you guys may have. As we jump into this, and I want to get your take on AI and kind of the speed of it. But the cool thing that I thought talking to you guys was, I know you're moving to the voice agent assist, but, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you guys started more in that kind of the digital, right? Meaning chat, meaning those types of things from that. And when people think AI and they think kind of that generative AI model, that's not something maybe they think about. Can you talk about that? Because I thought it's really cool what you guys do in that space, because I have not seen another company really doing that.
Yeah, I think what for most people it relates to it as much is like, if you do a Google search, it will give you recommendations, auto-completing your sentences, right. These kind of things. And this is very much applicable in digital channels, chat, messaging, email. This is where we started, especially with Vodafone in the Netherlands. That we saw an opportunity to learn from conversations from the past, create an AI model for that, and put that into production with the agents there. They liked it a lot. This is 5 years ago, so we started with a small POC. And this is in chat only. So they were doing, I think, tens of thousands of conversations via chat towards their customers. They've now switched to more of a messaging model, which is probably something that happens in the US along the way as well. And so we started building models that could replicate the behaviors that good agents have in the contact centers, and then helping agents ramping up faster, but also not typing everything the same day every day. So if you have long sentences with questions and everything, if you put that forward as a suggestion, if you just autocomplete those, it's really helpful because it takes a little bit away of the pain that the agents have, the employees in the contact center, doing everything 1,000 times a day. It gets really repetitive. So we try to take that out. And also the digital channels, I think, especially the Netherlands is really forward in bringing those digital channels as a medium for contacting your customers. Whereas voice has been declining already, and I think that's a trend that you see across Europe, and it probably will be more of the digital channels in the US as well. And it's also a space. The digital channels are far more eligible, you could say, for automation, if you like, with AI. In voice, there's a one-to-one connection between an agent and a customer, whereas many contact centers often they run maybe 3, 4, 5, or 6 conversations simultaneously. And if you can automate within these conversations, then you can really, basically enhance productivity, also the quality within these conversations. So we started the other way around. We didn't start in voice. And it's also, right. I think, and this is what we alluded to, a little bit of the difference between the US and Europe maybe as well, in service versus doing outreach as a more of a sales channel.
I mean, you talk about a saving and an efficiency. It's almost like, and again, this is probably a bad analogy, but when you make an outbound call for a sales call and you get that sale, and then you can just send the disclosure, right? So you don't have to have your agent read the disclosure. Like, that saved outbound contact centers a huge amount of time. If you have 4 or 5 chats and you're able to auto complete so many of those where you're not typing the whole thing, that's crazy efficiencies. It's like making literally a phone call that much shorter.
Yeah, exactly. And the opportunity for that in the digital channels is far greater than in the voice channels, even, in our opinion. And so, for example, DHL, almost 50% over 50% of all the text they type in their contact centers is generated by Deepdesk. And we do this with not so much with the generative AI, but even with AI that has been established before, which is even more cheap and more effective to run. So you don't even have to put large language models in there. We do use the large language models, but more for complex use cases. So we just build a stack, which is with simple algorithms on the lower end. And then if the complex use cases are requiring more and smarter AI, we put those in on top. But those are more costly and also more slow in terms of delivering those suggestions. So we try to make it with very effective algorithms at the bottom end.
Do you see a difference when it comes to, I mean, I know there is a difference, but when it comes to the back end, kind of that AI or the large language models, when you're dealing now, getting into the voice agent assist compared to the digital side, how do those kind of correlate, or do they not correlate, or is it the same thing, but just a different output? What is the difference between those from kind of under the hood?
Well, from our perspective, what we do with, for example, the auto-completions or the text recommendations, at this point in time, it's still too expensive to do that with a large language model. It's not fast enough, and it's too costly. So you better deploy, let's say, more efficient and less expensive models, which are perfectly capable. And then once you start to get into other use cases, building on top of that, like maybe summarize. Summarize is a good thing to do with large language. Everyone knows this. What we are building now is mechanisms where you say, okay, if this happens in a conversation, and the large language model will evaluate that, then give a suggestion maybe to the agent saying, okay, there's an insurance being sold, and there's something of a cross or an upsell that can be sold with that. That's something that we had to train specific models for in the past, but now you can do that with large language models. So the large language model is in real time evaluating what is happening between the customer and the agent. And then you can put forward all sorts of mechanisms saying, okay, to the agent, maybe you should bring forward this opportunity, or maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do a little bit of a compliance check first. So the large language models are enabling different use cases versus that the digital channels where you have the auto-completions, which are more based on historical information. So it's a combination of both that makes it interesting. And this is also why we say you can bring use our models for it, but you could also bring your own model, which is something that we offer within the platform as well. If you have trained models, you can integrate those with Deepdesk as well.
When you guys started this kind of as your proof of concept, 5-6 years ago on the digital side, as you said, did you see the speed of this, like how fast things are coming? Did you think you guys were way ahead of the curve? Have people caught up, or is this like, does it kind of blow in your mind how fast things have gone in the last, say, 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, in a way, it is, especially since the last maybe 12 months. So with the explosion and let's say the exposure of Gen AI to the general public, we were building the large language models already for our customers in 2019, 2020. So but those were more like if you have GPT 3.5, maybe 4 now, those were more alike of the GPT 2. You could still run those on, let's say, hardware that is fairly reasonable to get within the contact center space. As with the larger language models, GPT-4, you cannot. It's hard to run that yourself. You gotta get an instance, or maybe run a little bit of a smaller model, but maybe a 7B or a 30B model. But we've been working on this for a very long time already, so we knew what the power was. But then, well, I think just over a year ago, we were looking at these like GPT-3, and we were saying, okay, this is really getting powerful. This is a little bit overwhelming for us as well. And that's also why we started to shift towards, okay, how should we build the company from here? How are we going to embrace these large language models? And I think we did. And this is also what is powering our voice proposition right now. And I think it's really a nice opportunity working with these large language models. So still, it's the first thing that we do now is getting more automation, either to getting the right things in front of the agent or doing RPA kind of things. It will get more interesting over time if we incorporate the context of the customer and the company into these large language models during the conversations that you have as well. So the large language model may know about the customer, which products he or she has, and then being able to put that forward in the conversation as well. So that will be, I think, a really interesting development, which we are building towards also with our own large language models.
And sorry about that. I was trying to move my phone. There's a couple questions on TikTok I was looking at, but let's talk about the large language models and the future of that. I have a kind of a theory, and I don't think it's just my theory, but a lot of the contact center space today, people don't realize how important their data is. So if I'm using a CCaaS platform, a nice CX1, a Genesys, a Five9, any of those types of things, my data it's very hard to kind of access that. I guess, what do you see as the progression for, say, a regular contact center that's saying, hey, we want to start to build, right? We have this huge amount of customer data. We have a huge amount of agent data and how we have dealt with these type of issues. What is kind of your thoughts on kind of starting from scratch, I guess, to build these things out? And where do you see like those players? Data is going to be gold. Right. So to be able to start to access that, I know that's kind of a lot in that question, but if you can kind of maybe touch on some of that stuff, because I think that's important.
Yeah, I think what we see happening is that at the end of the day, it might be a bit different in 2 or 3 years, but I think it will end up in the CRM space. So the CX and the CRM will come and join together. This is what you see with Salesforce. This is what you see with Microsoft going that direction. And I think what we've chosen as a route is that we bring our technology towards where the agent is doing his or her work. So we make it like little components that you can deploy anywhere. So that, and we are the platform then to plug into, for example, your knowledge base or this data source, bringing that together, bringing the information towards the agent. And then the agent is able to handle the questions that the customer has, because all the information is there at the same point. So to us, it's really not so much what kind of system do you use. We just deploy the technology as an AI layer on top of the technology stack that you've chosen. But ultimately, I think especially since you're saying the data is where the gold is, maybe I think if you turn that data into the LLM. Right. And then start doing things with it, that's the magic. I think that's the game that we'll see in the next maybe 2 or 3 years.
In talking to some of my friends in the CCaaS space too, they're talking about, and it kind of confuses me, and I know it confuses a lot of kind of, I guess, friends in the space and colleagues. So there's instances of kind of bringing kind of quote unquote like private chat GPT, right, to kind of your organization, or having some of these other third party kind of AI models. What is your take kind of on that? From, do you see like these big, like a Walmart, right? Like going that route from their CX to have like from a privacy standpoint, from everything, I'm going to have my own.
Yeah, I think what is happening, what we see with our customers, we are trying to be flexible towards them. And so one of our customers is a large bank. They basically have a lot of requirements in terms of security and safety and everything, which is obvious for a bank. So we give them the option, say, okay, you can go with our models for, let's say, the lower end of the things, and then the things that need to run fast. Then there's providers or like the OpenAI, but also Microsoft in Azure is offering GPT. And then it's 3.5 or 4 maybe. We can provide that service to them via our instance, which Microsoft offers or OpenAI is offering, or they can use their own. This is what we bring your own model in that sense. So they do have control of that large language model in that case. And then we can build with their large language model towards the use case that they ask us. So we're pretty flexible in it. But what I will see and what we are currently doing is, like what I've said in the past, is I think the large language model is like doing shopping with a truck. Whereas if you can have a car as well to do some shopping. And then I think larger language models are good, but for many use cases, the smaller language models, which we will deploy ourselves, with maybe integrating the data from our customers, so bringing all of the data that they have, conversations maybe, but also customer data, and putting that into a large language model, and then using that as a private version for a bank or an insurance company is really a big opportunity. And we help those customers by providing these types of services and then providing those types of LLMs as well. So I think that's a way we will be seeing. So smaller LLMs essentially, which are more focused towards specific use cases. And then you don't have to pull the whole large language model, which is more of a generic model, of course, which has learned from the world. It should learn from the knowledge within the organization. And I think that's something that we'll see happening maybe next year already with vendors doing that.
And a question I probably should have asked, and I normally ask everybody this at the beginning, but so this might sound a little out of place here, but can you define, like, how do you guys at Deepdesk, how do you guys define AI? Like what is it for you guys, right? Is it this like ultra learning aspect? Is it just really good algorithms? What is your definition of what AI is?
It's probability.
Okay.
That's it.
Love it.
Yeah. And I think well, personally, I have had some sleepless nights over, is there an AI which will run away? Like these discussions with Sam Altman and all these people saying, okay, yeah, this might be something that is really tricky. And it still could be tricky at some point. Like, but I'm not completely sure about the Terminator kind of storyline. Right. But I think up until now, it's probably probability, which humans are capable of likening a lot, because we see behavior that is human. And that's why I think we are so much interested in it. It's giving a reflection of humanity back to us. And that's also maybe why we are putting more into it than there actually is, because it's just a prediction of words for a next sentence. It's a statistical model with a lot of parameters. So in that sense, it's only probability. And there's a lot of debate going on whether this is true and whether it will become at some point maybe like aware or not. But I think we're not there yet. But it's very hard, at least from my perspective, to make, let's say, a good prediction about, okay, when will that be? Or will we have like a general AI or these kind of things? But up until now, to me and to us, it's still probability. It's just, okay, we predict based on the data. And apparently there's a lot of information in that data, which we are not able to process as humans, but there is for computers. And they have been like becoming more powerful every year with Moore's law, etc. So I think we see the results from that.
That's going to make a great video. I'm excited to chop that one up, Robbert. That's cool. Some, I think, a little bit, not a different take, but I think you articulated it how a lot of people think about it. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about your new products. Let's talk about, you moving from the digital side. And I know we talked a little bit that already, and moving to the voice side from an agent assist, but talk about some of the cool things that you guys have on the plate to kind of put your stamp kind of in this AI world in as it relates to CX?
I think what we see, and I always like to talk from the perspective of our customers. We create like slide decks and then say, okay, these are a couple of ideas that we have. And then one of the things that is getting a lot of traction that we run with these customers is the knowledge assist, as we call it. It's basically, we get their data in terms of the knowledge base that they have. This might be a knowledge graph or a knowledge base with like documents, instructions, or the way they work or operate. And then we train the model with that. And basically what we put forward with the agents is a Q&A mechanism, much like ChatGPT. They can ask all sorts of questions, and it will take into account the context of the conversation they are currently having with the customer. So the large language model is aware of all the knowledge base information and also aware of the conversation going at that moment. This works for voice and for the digital channels both.
Awesome.
So you can implement it as a widget within a CRM system or as a layover like Command K if you like, and call it and then just ask questions. Also repeat questions just like you would do with ChatGPT, for example. It will then give you answers which are really much tailored towards the information that the organization holds. And that's interesting because can you
give some examples?
Yeah, so this is an insurance company. They have like an instruction for their people working in their contact center. It's 150 pages. And that's hard.
Right.
It's hard to take in those kind of like these amounts of information. And they do ask this from their people. So we put this into the knowledge graph, saying, okay, this is the knowledge assist, and these agents then can ask these questions that they have during the conversations towards this. Maybe it's a little bit of a chatbot. It's a colleague to them, and then answering the questions. But the nice thing is it's kept up to date automatically. Because if procedural changes are being fed into the system, we get a copy of it, and then we update the knowledge as well. And the knowledge assist will be capable of giving new answers. It's just generating answers for the customer. In other cases, we provide that, for example, within Genesis, one of the customers is using it to, it has an intent recognition at the beginning of a voice conversation. We then take that intent, as in, okay, I want to maybe get a new credit card, and then put that into the knowledge assist, and it will come up prior to the call even being acknowledged as, okay, this is what you should do. And then the agent is already on top of what he or she should do. I think that's really powerful, because what we see, if you take the stack of the work that people do in the contact center, a lot of it is not talking or typing. A lot of it is looking up information, getting records in, getting tasks out. So I think we are trying to reduce the number of things the time that they spend looking for things. And I think one of the knowledge assist is really powerful in that. And it works for digital and voice channels as well. The other thing is what we're launching now is routing. So the conversations might come in. We try to assess with a large language model, okay, this is a typical question for team A. Oh, this is a typical question for team B. And if the conversations get in the right place, that's really helpful. We see an uptake from, I think with previous systems, one of our customers was doing 25% of correct routing. With the large language model, we see 75%. So then that really helps in getting the things done right. And the other thing is, what we call actions and notifications. We evaluate continuously the conversation that is happening between the customer and the agent, and then we can put forward if this then that. So the agent manager or the contact center manager might put in rules saying, okay, if this is happening, so for example, if the agent is trying to send a mechanic to maybe somebody at home, it's an expensive transaction. The customer needs to sign an approval for that, because otherwise the cost will be for the company. And in this case, we can just pop up a little message saying, okay, you need to make sure that the customer signed off on the mechanic and the cost that come with that. And the power is that these rules are just prompts. The prompts are being done by the contact center manager. They don't need IT, they don't need AI, data science. They just pull in this information, put in a prompt saying, okay, if this is the case, then I would like you to show a message. Or if this is the case, I would like you to run this action. And it's super powerful because you bring back the power of the large language model to the business instead of the IT organization. And I think that's something people have been looking for a long time, as being able to deploy these kind of things in the contact center.
Do you think through, and in my, just always a question I have for some of my other, kind of friends that are in or using agent assist or some type of model that's kind of like that's coming out now is, what is too much for the agent, right? Like what, from getting away from the just that, but the actual UI UX of the agent sitting there doing it. How do you think that through of what you give and what you don't give?
Well, it's an excellent question, because this is why we came up with the Think Human. We really try to take in, okay, what does this mean for the people doing their work? I think, like in IT, for the last 20 or 30 years, we've been building, and I don't like to be bragging about it, but it's like not good systems for people to use. Like it's like building a door with a knob that's not functioning, and there's plenty of that in every industry, like CRMs or CX systems. So we try to focus on that, and if you do that, the agents are happier. They will stay longer. If agents are happy, they will provide for happy customers as well, because that's the relationship that they have. So we have a lot of focus on the agent. So one of the things that we provided them with is what we call personal collection. We noticed that many agents in the contact center had lists of sentences that they had on a notepad, and we put that into Deepdesk. We asked them to say, okay, just put it in there, and then we'll auto-complete it for them. It's not even AI, but it's helping them out in doing their work properly. So listening to the user and then implementing those kind of things, even if it's not AI or not super fancy, but just giving them the right tools is helpful in doing your work. And we enjoy doing that because there's beauty in providing nice tools, at least from my point of view.
Customers and agents don't care about AI. They just care about the experience that they're getting. So if you don't need it, like if you can do something quicker, less expensive, then I think we are everybody in this industry, especially in the BPO space, right? You have to be a AI centered BPO context, and you have to say it. When I don't even know really what that means. I know that every tool that I have for my partners or my CCAS partners has AI infused in it. So I guess I'm using that. I'm using Agent Assist, so I guess I am, but no one cares, right? It's just, what is the end result? And if we can make it better with AI, I think.
Yeah, I think one of this is also for DHL. At some point, the agents, if you turn it off after a trial, they become really, 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 really angry, because they need to go back to like, okay, well, now we need to start typing again. We were used to 3 months of non-typing, whereas don't need it to. And the other part is, that's good proof. I think the guys from the DHL contact center were asking for T-shirts with Deepdesk on it because they liked it so much, and I think that's really proper validation of the product being loved by end users.
Where do you see this going? And let's focus on you guys specifically from a Deepdesk standpoint. And again, I don't want to like get any secrets or anything that you guys are working on, but as an overall maybe industry that you guys in that kind of that part that you are in the next, I don't want to say 10 years because that's way too long, but in the next 3 to 5 years, what are some of the things that you can see kind of coming out that we can all kind of expect?
Yeah, what will happen, I think, is the general use cases that you see, such as summarization or these kind of things, that will be everywhere. It's like the Copilot Microsoft is offering in the general sense, just doing your work, those kind of things. We will be much more focused on the use cases that are specific to the customer contact center. And there are many of those. There's so much repetition going on, and I think the large language models have given us an opportunity to get even more work, which is repetitive, which nobody likes, where nobody gets any interest from, to do more automation from that perspective. But what I think where the real value will be is maybe getting all of the data in one place and then center it, and then use that to basically get better customer satisfaction. So, because what I think is really the essence of the problem is that the company usually have maybe issues or problems in their processes, which are leading towards customers reaching out, which is obviously fine. But you should not be solving problems. You should be creating valuable connection towards your customers. I suppose in terms of having a relationship, that should be the goal. One of another customers of ours is a bank, and they are really saying we want to automate the part that is not interesting, and we want to have the agents more time for interaction with the customer. And I think a large language model will power way more of that. And that will create more value at the end of the day. And I think what we will do is build our own LLM, which is already around the corner. It will be smaller, but it will be more focused. It will integrate all of the data that our customers have. We bring it together, and we'll try to make the experience for the agent better. And at some point, it might be as good as that you will be talking as a customer-facing application as well. It could be something that is happening for simpler use cases. We never had a really good experience with chatbots in general. There might be a couple of use cases that are very powerful, but those are fairly simple in general. But I think talking to a large language model with the information, with everything there, would be something that you will be doing in maybe 2 to 3 years, and that might be applicable to every company. But if you merge that with agents and employees, I think that's the most powerful stuff. Nobody wants to do the run-of-the-mill stuff. That's not what we're here for. I think if you can take that out of the equation and get more into the attention towards the customer, but by having the right information in front of you and helping these customers out, I think that's really powerful.
All right, I'm going to ask you, I got 1 or 2 more questions for you, but I'm going to ask you a selfish question. What, being a BPO, right, and being here in the States, there is the number one conversation that we're having, and actually I'm going out to Google tomorrow to talk to a bunch of BPOs on this exact topic. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. Is the BPO having an agent in a chair answering calls days only is done. There needs to be what you guys are doing, the incorporation of not only maybe taking, I'm planning on a 20 to 25% drop in my volume based on customers that want to use that just front end, first touch point, generative AI. But I think more customers want to go your route, right? To how do we help the customer? What do you tell the BPO? And again, I'm with you on this. We need to grow up. We're no longer call centers. We need to be technology partners for our clients. That's the route that we're taking. But there's a lot that are not, that are nervous and scared about this. What do you say to the BPO that has had this model forever, and now with technology like agent assist, like all these types of things to infuse with the how the agent experience works?
Well, there's an inherent issue. The business model of BPOs is the other way around. So we've been talking to a lot of BPOs in our 5-year, and they have been very much hesitant to implement agent assist, either for the customer that they serve or for themselves, because they just don't feel like we need to turn around. They didn't feel any pressure for that because they're billing hours. That's the principle of it. Even if they could make a better buck, I think, if they implemented agent assist, but somehow it wasn't getting through. We have done a lot of talks with BPOs, and we at the end of the day, we decided we will do only business with the direct customers because it's easier to explain it to them. It might be a bit of a harsh message, but it just doesn't work out. What I think is true for BPOs is being more on the let's say partner for IT. Let's bring new technology in, and I think expanding into to where are humans valuable. So you have humans in a contact center. These are people. That's the value that you have towards the people that are the customers of your customer. So I think you somehow finding a route to make that more, leverage that more, that these humans are talking to humans, and that should be in the higher end, let's say, conversations. That's where the value is. I think many people want to talk to humans still because they like it. It's just a human connection that makes a lot of things tick. But people don't want to talk to a human to change out their credit card. It's just they want to do that process in a different way. Like, okay, can we do it automatic? Because, okay, that's how I like to do it. But I think the shift should be towards the higher end type of conversation, and not so much the drain where every shit goes, or what I sort of not sure if I am allowed to say that. But I think using the humans in the contact center and then giving them the position to be human towards the customers, I think that's a valuable route.
This is going to be the first. These types of technology, in my opinion, are going to be the first technology that is not going to be vendor driven. It's going to be customer driven, because I guarantee you, now I've not seen it yet, but the next, maybe in 2024, 2025, every RFP I'm going to get is going to be like, you must have agent assist, right? You must have this, right? It's going to be customer driven. It's not something I think that BPO should fight, can fight. Just thinking about that model. But again, for when it's customer driven, it's a whole different deal than being vendor driven. And I think that might be the first real piece of AI technology that kind of does that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, hey man, I really appreciate this. Can you just maybe give your kind of last pitch? If anybody wants to go to the website, if anybody wants to see anything, if everybody wants to take a demo, also any of your social media stuff too, please, you got the last 30 seconds, minute here to do what you need to do.
Well, we're at deepdesk.com. We're very much keen to help you out. Doesn't matter to us where you are, what your volumes are. We can plug into like the large platforms that are out there, and we can help you with our agent assist for digital channels, but also for voice. So we really like to do that, and I think we offer quite an extensive opportunity also in the realm of large language models, which then have, if you're let's say a CEO of a company, this should be on your list. I think because this is where the money will be the next couple of years.
Robbert, it's great talking to you. It was great talking to you over the last couple of weeks as well. You and your team, and Brendan as well, who's kind of in your leadership team. You guys are really smart. I think you're taking this on, in a different way, which is really unique in the space, and taking all the things you guys have learned from the digital side and putting it to voice, where most people have done it the opposite way. So, really excited to see what you guys do. And let's definitely stay in touch, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, looking forward. Ciao.
All right, Robbert. Thank you, buddy.
Bye now.